Right now in South Korea, a mid-30s woman is furious because her friend, a doctor, had the audacity to introduce her to a police officer. She is currently in her mid-30s, owns no property, lives in a rented studio apartment, and yet she genuinely believes that because she dated a professional years ago, she is still entitled to a man of that same caliber or better. What is almost impossible to believe is that she is treating her past relationship as a fixed asset value that should appreciate, while ignoring the cold, hard reality that her own market value is subject to depreciating factors like age and economic status. It is a spectacular textbook display of delusional hypocrisy, where the cold, hard logic of the market has completely decoupled from her own perceived value.
Wait, is she seriously calling a police officer a downgrade? That is insane.
It is indeed, but this is the bizarre reality of the modern Korean marriage market. This woman is not an isolated case. She is the face of a growing phenomenon where the past is used as a weapon to distort the present. She is demanding a high return on an investment she has not actively maintained, and she is blaming the market when the market correctly offers her a valuation that reflects her current standing, not her past glory. The root of this obsession is the total replacement of genuine intimacy with cold utility. When individuals begin to view a potential partner strictly as a component in their personal success strategy, affection is quickly discarded in favor of tangible, measurable assets, home ownership, prestigious professional titles, or high-income brackets. This is not just about basic financial security, it is about social armor in an increasingly hostile environment. In a society where economic anxiety is rampant and constant, the social pressure to demonstrate status by one's spouse is absolutely paralyzing. It turns the search for a partner into a high-stakes auction where everyone is bidding with increasingly inflated currency. The woman's immediate rejection of the police officer is not a rejection of the man himself, but rather a refusal to accept a lower utility ranking in this brutal social auction. She has conditioned herself to believe that holding out for a top-tier asset is the only way to avoid sliding down the social hierarchy, and she is terrified of the alternative. It is a desperate, calculated gamble to maintain a fragile facade of high-value status that no longer aligns with her actual market positioning, and she is doubling down as her options narrow.
I really thought you would like him. He is tall, fit, and very kind, and he has a stable career as an officer.
Are you kidding me? A police officer? Do you have no respect for my standards? I dated a veterinarian before. Do you really think I am going to settle for this?
Here is what is truly shocking. The woman actually believes she is doing nothing wrong by berating the doctor for this suggestion. Summon Mehi, but why would they actually demand this? Why is this such a widespread issue? It boils down to the fact that in South Korea, relationships have been entirely commodified. It is not about finding someone you love, it is about finding an asset that validates your own carefully curated status. Marriage is a financial pie, and everyone is fighting for the biggest slice. These women are often socialized to believe that their youth is their ultimate currency, and if they do not cash it in for a top-tier partner by a certain age, they have somehow failed. It is ruthless, it is cold, and frankly, it is depressing to watch from the sidelines. This situation is further complicated by the pervasive past peak delusion, where individuals stubbornly anchor their present market value to their historic younger peaks. Years ago, when she was younger and perhaps more easily aligned with high-status professionals, she may have been a premium participant in the marriage market. She has not updated her own valuation, however, and still expects the market to offer her the same primetime pricing. She treats her previous engagement as if it were a high-yield asset that should have matured, not as a closed historical event. She is operating on a depreciated valuation while demanding premium-level results. This is not just mere arrogance, it is a profound systemic disconnect from reality that is being dangerously reinforced by the total lack of honest critical feedback from her own social circle. Peers and friends, often fearing conflict or social awkwardness, frequently validate these delusions, which only traps her deeper within this self-defeating feedback loop, making it impossible for her to calibrate her expectations to the current harsher realities.
That explains a lot. But how do they justify this to themselves without going crazy?
They do not. They fall into a state of intense denial, unable to adjust their expectations as the market dynamics shift against them. They cling to the memory of their peak value years, convinced that they are still that same person. They are stuck in a loop of waiting for a market that has already moved on from them. It gets even worse when you consider that there are absolutely no functional safeguards to guide people through this process. In a healthy society, you might have community mentors, realistic dating education, or social circles that demand maturity and self-reflection. Instead, we have a total void. The only institutions that fill this space are profit-driven matchmaking agencies, the infamous Gyeol Jongsa. These agencies are not interested in creating healthy, long-term, sustainable partnerships. They are businesses built entirely on commodification. They categorize individuals by rigid, measurable criteria: age, salary, asset value, education, reinforcing the idea that people are just data points in a high-stakes transaction. By systematizing these superficial requirements, they act as fuel for the very delusions that are tearing the marriage market apart. They profit from the vanity, not the success, of their clients, turning human relationships into a spreadsheet of competing scores. The real nature of this incomprehensible situation is that it has been stripped of romantic ideals and transformed into a high-stakes financial negotiation where the social pressure to maintain a facade of success is all-encompassing.
So this is why everyone is so obsessed with occupational status?
Exactly. In this environment, housing prices are astronomical and economic anxiety is rampant. Consequently, individuals are aggressively fighting for their share of a finite financial pie. People are obsessively categorized into tiers, and society treats these tiers like social castes. When a woman says she is demanding a professional, she is not just looking for a partner, she is looking for a social upgrade that validates her existence. This is no accident, it is the direct result of a society that has lost its way regarding what a partnership should actually look like. The structural breakdown here is absolute. As the disconnect between individual expectations and market realities widens, we see the rise of intense, gender-based antagonism. People are not just failing to find partners, they are beginning to view the entire opposite sex through a lens of suspicion and resentment, blaming them for the failures of the market system itself. This, in turn, accelerates the decline as the motivation to even participate in the market drops significantly. The entire system is now feeding off its own collapse.
But what happens when reality finally sets in?
That is the real twist that makes this even more unsettling. When reality hits them in the face, the hypocrisy is staggering. They complain that the market is unfair because it is not giving them the high-tier man they were entitled to years ago. They refuse to accept that the market, the cold, heartless engine of capitalism, does not care about who you dated in the past. It cares about who you are, what you bring to the table, and how you match up right now. When they get offered someone who is a decent, stable, good man, they see it as a personal insult, not a reality check.
I just cannot believe he thought I would be okay with that. I deserve so much better than an officer.
I do not know. Maybe you should just give him a chance. He seems like a good guy.
The real background behind their audacity is a complete lack of realistic marriage preparation and a societal overemphasis on financial status as the sole indicator of a successful marriage. There are no institutional checks or realistic social feedback loops that help individuals calibrate their expectations as they age. The market itself is unregulated, and while matchmaking agencies exist, they often perpetuate the commodification of individuals rather than facilitating genuine matches. The lack of cultural dialogue regarding sustainable partnership models rather than status-based ones means that unrealistic standards become self-reinforcing.
So what is the inevitable outcome if nothing changes?
The reality they have been trying to hide is this: if this trend continues and becomes entrenched, the result will be a continued rapid decline in marriage rates and a further hardening of gender-based antagonism. As more individuals adopt the stance that a marriage must be a net positive financial and status gain, the pool of potential partners will continue to shrink. This leads to profound social isolation, not just for the women who hold these unrealistic standards, but for the men who are essentially priced out of the marriage market, leading to a breakdown in societal cohesion. The inevitable outcome is a massive demographic contraction, which is already visible in South Korea's record low fertility rates. This is not just a personal failure, it is a profound societal collapse where the very mechanisms of building families and future generations have been sacrificed at the altar of hyper-individualized status seeking. The next generation is growing up watching this spectacle and deciding that the marriage market is not a place they want to participate in at all. They are watching these dynamics and choosing to opt out entirely, which only ensures the cycle continues, deepening the crisis and making the prospect of finding a genuine connection even more elusive for everyone involved.
That is actually terrifying.
It is a chilling parallel to global trends in societies with high gender friction and declining marriage rates, where young adults are becoming increasingly disenchanted with traditional marriage due to perceived unfairness in the market dynamics. The irony is that the more rigid these demands become, the faster the marriage rate declines, accelerating the demographic crisis. They are fighting a war they already lost, and the only casualty is their own future. It is the ultimate backfire, and the market does not even notice. The market keeps moving, leaving them behind with their increasingly high standards and their increasingly empty lives. It is a tragedy, really, if it were not so incredibly, painfully predictable. The real problem starts now, as the next generation is growing up watching this spectacle and deciding that the marriage market is not a place they want to participate in at all. They are watching these dynamics and choosing to opt out entirely, which only ensures the cycle continues, deepening the crisis and making the prospect of finding a genuine connection even more elusive for everyone involved. Fuel the truth at Dating in Korea. Support the structure. Stay safe in the lounge.